Hi, guys. Welcome back to Blunt Blowin Mama podcast. I am your host, Shonitria, and today we are joined by someone super amazing. You guys know I've been on my healing journey and I've been really working hard to get back to not even the person I was before kids, but like a way better, improved version of that person. And it's taken a lot of work, it's taken a lot of healing, it's taken a whole lot of therapy. And now I'm finally ready to kind of chat about that healing process with you guys and kind of give you guys some pointers along the way so that you can start working and healing on yourself. So somehow the Instagram universe brought you to me, Cynthia, and I would love to chat more about, your background and inner child healing. That's what we're talking about today, and the postpartum depression. So it's going to be a really good conversation. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Mama, and let's get into it.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Cynthia Perez, and I'm a therapist here in Los Angeles. I live in Long Beach. I've been doing social work for about 12 years now. I've done schools. I've been in schools, clinics. I've done foster care. And lastly, I got into medical health care because I thought it would be less traumatic. They're all traumatic. And so it was in the pandemic, I left working in healthcare. I was already burnt out, but I really saw my body suffering. So I left to do therapy my way.
Okay.
And so in doing it my way, I started really incorporating what I was using to heal. And it was really cannabis. It was therapy. And in the pandemic, I would 4 o'clock, I know that by 5 I'm going to be done. I would take an edible by 4 just to cope. And I would find myself by 5 o'clock being able to be calm after work. It was the only way I could keep going.
And you timed it. You figured out like, okay, it's going to take 1 hour for this to kick in. So if I take it at this time, then by this time. So that's really smart. So you'd already gotten in tune with your body and with your consumption.
Yeah. And it was really honoring, like, okay, you gotta work, and then here's how you're going to rest after. Yeah. And then after work, I found myself smoking in the backyard, but like going in my garden, creating. And when I was stressed at work, I called work, and I worked for a major healthcare, the number one in this place. And when I was like crying, having really intrusive thoughts, really scary thoughts, like I'm sure a lot of us have been low this pandemic, they said, take a breath every hour. You get 1 minute and take a breath. And I was like, okay. And then what? They're like, that's it. Take a breath.
Get back to work.
Keep it pushing. Wow. So I started creating my own thing. So I realized it was cannabis.
Even in healthcare.
Yikes. That's what they tell you. So I was doing plant medicine, and I noticed I could play with my children better. I could connect to my own thoughts. I could calm down. I could chill with my husband after. So I left healthcare. I went back, and my body was screaming, don't go back there. So I left. I started my own private practice. I'm now, I made a goal of like, I want to work with other professional, undocumented or first gen Latinos or women of color. I know I'm a white Latina, but I'm a daughter of immigrants. And that kept coming up for me in my work. So that was my goal. And now I'm able to do it. Now I have a contract, and I get to do therapy, telehealth therapy, with farm workers in California. So I'm doing that first generation work again. And I also have private clients. And on top of that, I get to do inner child workshops. Like now I'm doing inner child visualizations and a sound bath, and we're adding cannabis. So it's really being able to use my license and my education, but really honor the community that I see. So thank you for asking. And now I get to do fun things like this with you.
I'm like, so like, that is amazing. Like you left the corporate structure basically to say, you know what, like I want to help people who look like me. I want to help people like where I came from. I want to help my community essentially. And I think a lot of people are sold this dream of like, get that degree, get that job, make that money, and everything will be okay. But when you get into these spaces, you realize that, hey, this space was never meant for me. Like I wasn't supposed to be here. Women aren't supposed to be here. Women of color, Black women, like we're not supposed to be here because they don't really want us here. And so we're in these hostile work environments thinking that this is the American dream. When really the American dream is making money, doing things you love while giving back to the people you love.
Right. Success. That is, oh my gosh. Success. It's like when I started to redefine what success meant, and we were kind of talking about it here with one of the engineers, like when you step into, wow, I thought this was success. Yes. And I thank you for acknowledging, I say like so often, like I'm a daughter of immigrants and I left a pension job. And I say it because
It's
we're
a
not
big
supposed to
deal.
do
You're not
that.
supposed to do that.
My parents every
Your parents
day.
bust their ass.
So
You
how
gotta give
dare
that
you?
up.
My dad even the other day said, "Good luck when that doesn't work out."
I mean, and to be fair, you know, you have to understand where he's coming from. He's
Sure.
not saying he doesn't believe in your dreams. He's saying that like we did all this for you and you gonna do this? Like for what? For happiness? What is
Right.
for bliss? For peace of mind?
Right.
For
What is that?
What's
we
that?
don't do that. We work,
and then we die.
So, that is the inner child stuff I had to do of like, first of all, so now I do therapy in the park. I do it my way. We do it on the park, right on the grass. I bring mats. We do oracle cards. We'll do visualizations, whatever it is. I am seeing my clients like they are every week they're like glowing different when I couldn't do that in systems. And I kept thinking like, I'm a bad therapist. I'm dumb. I'm not good at this. And now I'm like, no, we're all together with the clients. Like it's the systems, it's this, and you are beautiful.
Yes.
I'm getting to a point where my clients, I'm like, okay, now I want you as my friend.
Yeah.
And you're glowing. They're growing in so much awareness that, it's beautiful to see. And it's revalidating to me. Like that was the right move.
Yes, I love that. What made you realize and think that, hey, I'm going to start incorporating cannabis into my therapy practice? Because like I had a therapist and like while we didn't incorporate cannabis into our therapy sessions, she knew that I consumed and she wasn't against it. So it was never something, well, you think it was the weed or something? Because that does happen because there is that lack of understanding in the medical community, especially amongst therapists, and understanding the role of cannabis in mental health. And how it can be either a crutch, it could be a band-aid, or it can actually be a tool that you can utilize to really help yourself be more well.
Right.
But I think that so many therapists just don't know how to incorporate it yet. And I don't think it's their fault. It's just that there's just so much like there's lack of accessibility, lack of education, and all those things kind of feed into each other. But what made you say, fuck it, we're going to use cannabis? Like I'm going to use cannabis as a therapist in my practice. Do you use it with your patients or?
So, that's something I'm going to do a sound bath. We're doing a sound bath in Long Beach and it's after my journal. It's named after my journal, My Highest Self, a puff and process meditation. So it's in the park. Think about it. It's when the sun's setting. So it's going to be foggy by the lake. Nice. We're all going to be there. And then I have Phoenix Rise Project. They're doing a sound bath and they're an indigenous group. They do a sound bath. So I am starting to, I want to, but I thought about this a year ago and I thought like, I'll be who am I to do this? I haven't even been smoking that long. In my 30s when I was having a lot of miscarriages, I started smoking. I used to judge my husband.
And right? So your husband smokes weed and you didn't smoke weed.
He did, yes. And I'd be like, but he said to me when we were dating, like, this calms me and it helps with my anxiety. And I'd rather do this than be anxious and angry. And I'm like,
I love that he explained that to you in that way and you understood that.
Yes, thank you. And I will say right now, like who knows, when this podcast, when we hear it in 10 years, I'm telling you right now, Shonitria, a lot of therapists of color, of backgrounds that are like undocumented or immigrants, we're even thinking of giving up our license to the point of, do I want to do therapy this way? We're actually reclaiming the role of healers instead of therapists. Because when we're therapists, sometimes we got to do things that we're like, I don't agree with this. So like cannabis, a lot of us say, don't tell us that you do the cannabis. I'm not going to write it down.
Yeah,
because
I don't want to know. Like, don't tell us.
Right.
And it's like, but this is like a huge part of my day to day that I'm leaving out in our sessions. Like,
right. And you're asking me how I'm coping and I don't even want to share with you because you're not going to. So that's where I did feel the riff. And it's so good that you found a therapist that's important to do that. And so in writing, okay, so we wrote a journal and that's how we found each other. You got a free copy of the journal in a goodie bag with Who Let Me Be a Mom.
Yes.
With Sabrina. Yes. So I wrote that journal, girl. I was high, but in a beautiful, like spirit-led way. I don't remember writing it.
Wow.
It was like X-Men. When Halle Berry, not Halle Berry. Is it Storm? Yeah. She like goes with her eyes white. I just remember I would tell my friend, I don't know, but when I smoke at night, I sit in my chair when I put the kids to bed and I just like curl up. And when I sit there, it's because I can't handle it. But once I go in, I would really have this like inner dialogue with that little girl. And it was really like
little girl you.
Little girl me.
Okay, now we're getting
okay. And now don't get me wrong. I thought like, what's going on? This is weird. And I was learning about inner child work because I was taking courses for my job. But really, I started really like, embodying it. And I would tell my friends who didn't smoke, a lot of them don't smoke.
Okay.
Hey, I go home after I put the kids to bed. I like sit there and I feel like I'm talking to this girl. And then this mother voice of me is like telling them, it's okay. It's been a long day. And I soothe myself. I come out of that and I just feel better.
Right.
So what I found was I was doing all this science-based research. So I told my friend, I feel like I need to write something so that we can use cannabis as a tool and really like make it intentional. So one girlfriend said, why don't you do it as an app? Everyone wants an app. And I was like, no, if we're talking about inner child, we got to be hands-on. We got to be like active. And so that's why I chose to do an old school journal. But in the journal, it really was me claiming I smoke cannabis. It is helpful. I had to really own it. Like you, I love your podcast because you're owning it. And in that owning, you make these connections with these other moms and you're making it normal as fuck. So I feel like that was if I had to say Blunt Blowin Mama moment, it was it. My husband was supportive and I kept waiting for everyone to be like, that's a bad idea.
Nobody did.
That's love. My cousin came from Mexico. We were smoking in the car one day and he opened his business in Mexico. And all my family's like, Eric, the small one, he's travieso. He can't keep a job. He is such a good businessman now.
Wow.
So when I'm sharing, we're smoking and he's crying. He's like, Cynthia, I believe in you. Make this book. So every step I kept waiting for people to be like, that's dumb. So that's why my little inner child had people. So my love now is really talking to other women, other adults really on how to nurture our inner child. And it's been the most effective thing in my whole career.
Wow.
Like instant connection.
And that came from you basically reconnecting with your own inner child via cannabis.
I would say via cannabis.
That's amazing. And so then you realize, hey, this is work that everybody needs to know about and should try.
And it should be accessible.
Yeah.
Because, it's not me. It's you. You're doing it all by yourself. I'm just here. That's why I call myself an inner child hype woman. Because I was like, what do I want? I don't want to be like, I'm your inner child therapist. So I intentionally chose your inner child hype
It's
woman.
not sexy. It's not sexy. And I'm like, ooh, inner child work? I don't want that. That's not... Sounds exhausting. I'd rather watch Netflix and chill.
I want to ask you about that because, I talk to a lot of therapist friends all day. What do you feel like when you've been hearing? Because I know it's all over TikTok and Instagram. How do you feel when you hear inner child work? And where are you on your inner child? May I ask you?
It sounds like work to me.
So I hear the work part.
But honestly, being in therapy for over a year, and I'm not in it right now, actually, to be clear. I don't want to be like, yeah, girl, I'm in therapy. I was in therapy for like a year and some change, maybe a year and a half. And I decided to stop therapy because, well, one, it was getting really expensive. And two, it's very expensive. And she's a great therapist, but she's getting expensive. And two, because I felt like I was in therapy and only in therapy. I was in therapy and I was smoking weed, but I wasn't praying. I wasn't meditating. I wasn't going out in nature. I wasn't moving my body. I wasn't being intentional. I wasn't trying to de-stress. I was just going to therapy and just doing it and like, okay. And she was giving me all this knowledge, like all this information, all these like skills and saying like, learn your apology language and love language and the anger language. And like, there's all these languages that I didn't even know about. And she's getting me to write things down and I'm just kind of half-assing it. And so eventually I was like, I need to stop therapy for a second to process all the information and all the tools she gave me and figure out how I can now actually start applying these things. Once I get into a consistent habit of discipline where I'm actually applying these things and putting myself first, then I feel like I'll be ready to go back to therapy and be even better and be like active in it. Like there's being in therapy and then there's being in therapy. And I was like in therapy, like #therapy. I wasn't like in it. But I do know what she gave me and she gave me great tools and I learned how to use that. And some of that was her like lovingly saying like, hey, that's little Shonitria. Like that's your inner child. That's the little girl in you who is upset that your mom did X, Y, or Z or your dad did this or that you were that. And you have to honor that. And when she would say that, I'd be like, what? I'm honoring a kid version of what is she talking? This lady is crazy. I'm paying her too much money to be talking crazy to me. Like this, like little Shonitria is grown up now and smokes hella weed and has bomb sex. And honestly, we're not thinking about the little child version of me.
Bye.
Bye. Like we grew up, but there's so many parts of that little girl that still lives in me, and I had to like really accept and work on that. And I don't think I'm like so far in my journey I'm like I can help you and I can help you, but like I'm far enough and like I'm aware enough that I feel, you know, like able to talk about it with you on camera and talk to you guys and like talk about it on the podcast, because like it needs to be said, you know. You don't, sometimes you see people and like they look one way and then they look another way and you're like, wait, what happened? And they don't really share like what they did or what work needs to be done. And it's like honoring the little kid in you is so important, like, because that little kid had hopes, that little kid had dreams, that little kid has been disappointed, that little kid has cried in a corner in the bedroom at night. Like that little kid has been so devastated and hurt, like thought that best friend was like, you know, just hurt them into shambles, and now they never feel worthy of friendship, or you know, so many things happen in your childhood. So many things.
Is your inner child my inner child?
You know, like, and you just hold on to that little girl. Like, and she's just like, you know, I had to really, I knew I was like really ready to heal, and I was in it when I told my man, I was like, hey, like, you know, the little girl in me is always afraid of, you know, being left, of like having to do everything herself. And because as the oldest child, like that's what I had to do. I was super responsible. And I told him like my whole life, like I was the answer. I didn't have to look to other people for answers. I was the answer. Like I was the leader. I did this. So sometimes to sit back and have to delegate or do other things feels like little Shonitria is losing control, and she wants that control. Cause like, and so, you know, just talking to him in terms of like the little girl in me experienced this, and that little girl is still in me.
Right.
And him hearing that and being like, oh, okay. So, and then saying like, I'm telling you all this because this is how I want you to handle me. This is how I want you to.
Gave him language.
I gave him the language. I'm
you
like,
put language
when I do
in the
this,
home for what it's going on.
When I do this, it's because of this. And little girl Shonitria experiencing this. And I need you to, in those moments, even if you're upset and angry, that's valid, but handle me with care, because I'm going through something. And that, And so him hearing that and always saying like, you're the most precious thing in the world to me and all this. And it's like, okay, if I'm so precious, when I need to be handled with care, handle me like fine china, you know, and because I'm trying in those moments. And so him hearing that and being like, yeah, I'll handle you with care. Like I can do that.
You know who else heard that? Little Shonitria heard you say it and said that this is how I picture. You said that for us. And you're like, yes, I said that for us.
Speaking up for her.
And then she's like, so you're going to, look, I get goosebumps. Like, so you're going to do that again? And you're like, yes, I'll do it again. So once you vocalize it to someone, it gets easier. But what it is like so often I realize one day I was like, babe, it sounds like you have a very supportive partner. I as well do. And
he tries his best.
Good. And we're trying, and right? We have our own
I'm not going to like hype him up, be like, I got the best man in the world. Like, no, because he be fucking up.
But okay.
But like,
but
he takes accountability.
That. Yeah.
He has emotional intelligence. Like he is willing to admit his shortcomings and say, hey, I too am a work in progress. And we can be work in progress together.
Like that's what works. Yes. I've seen some even now, like my husband, the other day, he said, hey, for Christmas, why don't we do inner child gifts? And I was like, say less. That was so sexy.
I love that. That's a good idea.
But I would have never thought he would say that. But in the past, sexy, I would have to, hey, you know, but in just me being me, embodying it, and him just supporting it. Now
you're influencing him.
Yes, and I see you. Way. You are bringing that language to your home. And sometimes it's like, I didn't know the language. Is that what you need? I love you. Yeah. You shared it. But also that child inside of us goes, thank you. And then it feels the plus side of that is like when I go, hey, I got you. And when someone's trying to fuck with you, I got you. They hear that. But then when I'm at the grocery store and I'm like, what do you want to eat? What do you feel like? They're like, we get to pick this too. You're not going to call me fat for eating that or lazy. They go, okay, well then I want this. When I give in to her, with love, without judgment, because I don't need my mom's voice of
which is what we're hearing.
Which is really what we're hearing, or our dad's voice. Our
dad, some adult in your life, grandma, whoever that may be for you.
Why do we need to do that to her? And I was thinking like, this is my home now. And she comes home to me, this child. And remember when we were a kid crying in the corner, like, I would never do that to my kid. Why are we still doing that?
To ourselves. Ooh.
So when we think of that kid as we're doing it, you said you wouldn't. And here we are. So then it's like, oh.
Yeah.
And only you know the words you need because it's you.
Yeah.
That's why it's free.
And then I wanna say that, like, thank you for creating that framework and the journal and allowing people to be able to access that, because that's like the first step,
Yeah.
And tying it back, like the reason why I felt like I needed healing and why we're even here today is because I experienced postpartum depression after having my son. It's like, it's so different, like hearing people talk about something and then having empathy for them, sympathizing, listening, right? We're always like, oh, I'm here for you. But when you go through that shit, when that shit comes knocking at your doorstep, then it's a different situation, because now you have to go through it. And it's not like, it's so much more than what you've heard, because it's affecting
you really
your life.
Cannot know about postpartum until you're
until you are in it, baby. You might not even know you in it until it's like
until
2
you're not in it.
years
You're
later.
like, the fog has lifted. Tell me a little bit about you. I mean, I'm willing to share mine too. You tell me some highlights.
I've definitely talked about this, previously on the podcast. I've had like an episode about my postpartum depression and experience with it, but I didn't know I was depressed, and it didn't kick in right away. I would say, the first 12 months after having my son, everything was great. And then I will say that the start of the pandemic probably did not help me.
So you had him right
in
before
2019.
Ooh, see, so then, you're pushed into this crisis. No wonder.
And so then we go into the pandemic, and then we have like George Floyd, and then we have like just like Black people dying. We have honestly everybody around the world dying. And then we had this like joke of a president, and I was just feeling everything. I'm still nursing at the time. So of course, and then like economic instability, financial instability in our home, emotional and mental instability. My kid, I didn't know she was going to school or she was going to be homeschooled, kindergarten, her first time. So it's like, oh my God. And then nobody can help us because of,
that part home. Too. Don't forget.
So, yeah, it was
everyone for themselves.
Yes. And it spiraled.
There.
It spiraled me into depression, and I didn't realize it until March of this year or something. So, 2 years, probably more than, at least 2 years of depression, and not knowing I was depressed, and not being able to understand, like, why am I not doing this? And I used to do that. Why am I not cleaning my bong? Something as simple as that, as much as I used to, because I love my lungs and I love smoking out of my bong. So I know it needs to be clean, but why do I just not have the energy for that anymore? Why do I not have the energy to take care of myself the way I used to? Why am I not cleaning my home? Why am I starting all these projects and not finishing them? Like, what's happening? Why am I and I'm thinking, oh, well, that's just who you are now. Like, that's just what it is.
That's shame talking.
Yeah, like you just deserve this because and it's just like, but then good things kept happening to me. So I was like, well, something's obviously like clicking and going right, but it's just like, I'm doing the work, but my heart wasn't completely in it, and I wasn't completely in it, and I was in a huge, huge fucking fog. I called it a postpartum fog.
I call it a fog too.
Because you don't know.
This, and
you can't see in front of you,
and you don't know when you're going to. You're doing the things. You're walking through the forest. You're doing. The
kids are growing. They're
I took
alive.
them to school. Oh my, thank you.
You know, people call. Sometimes I pick up the phone. Sometimes I don't. But I'm present. I'm showing proof of life. But it just
you
eventually.
Have pictures. You're smiling.
Allegedly, that's a smile. But I can look at those photos and I know that like dead inside. Like there's nothing behind the eyes. And then just going through things in my relationship as it got worse and deal breakers got broken, and so it's just like, oh shit, like. It's just over, like getting to the point of being very suicidal and seeing a lot of rage. I felt like very angry. And so that's when I started the therapy, and I was like, okay, like this cannot sustain, but still wasn't in it, but just doing it because like, fuck, what else am I going to do? I got my weed. I'm going to do the therapy. And I think that should help me. But like,
this should be done by now.
It should be done by now. Fast forward 1 year into therapy and still in the same place. I'm just like, I wasn't doing the work, right? I wasn't doing the work. So it took a lot, but eventually I realized that like, this is not sustainable. Like this relationship's not going to work. I'm not going to work as a mom. And honestly, I probably won't be alive much longer. Trigger warning. Sorry, you guys. But like, I will kill myself. Like I knew that I was not going to be alive because the pressures I felt were mounting so high and the stakes were super high, and I felt like I couldn't see a way out. Like, I felt like the only way out was really like out. And I knew that was not me talking. I was like, wait, that is not you. Like, because bitch, you love yourself. Like,
right. Ooh, so you were able
yourself,
to tease out. Tell me a little more of that.
So, it was definitely, you know, me realizing that like I had to get help. You know, and realizing that I have people who love me and who would gladly help me if I would just put aside my pride, put aside my ego, and reach out and ask for help. Reach out and say like, hey, I'm feeling suicidal. I just want to like go on the record of saying this, because if something does happen, I want you to know this is what's going on. This is where my head's at. I don't know why, but just be there for me. And just doing that and reaching out and talking to people and just saying like, hey, please, like, check on me. And having those people actually check on me. And like, me feeling like, oh, they do. I am loved. I do have friends. Like, and you know, and then like telling my mom, telling my partner, Jerry, to tell his mom, like, hey, we need help. Like, can someone come stay with us? Like, we need someone to stay a month, 3 months, 6 months, however long you can come. Please come. My mom was like, okay, fine. She ended up coming for, I think, like 3 months to stay with us. And that was the biggest thing ever that helped me finally get time to sleep, because I wasn't sleeping.
That'll do it.
And that was one thing that had me fucked up, and he wasn't sleeping. And then we hadn't had a date. We hadn't had a vacation in 3 years together, just us. That was causing problems on how we were relating. So there was like so many issues. My mom walked in and she was just like, it is a mess here, because like it was chaos, because my life was in turmoil and I wasn't myself. So I had to ask for help. That was the first step, like acknowledging, something's not right. Let me figure out what I need to do. To fix this, and then admitting that I needed help. Yeah, and then the rest kind of unfolded from there, because I was ready and inviting it, and I was finally open and ready to heal.
And I'm sorry that I have to say that you're so brave, because we should be able to say stuff like this, but society makes it such a stigma for us to even be like, this shit did not come easy.
It didn't come easy.
I wanted this child is loved, but right now I am in a fog.
I'm crazy. I'm not
but
myself,
if we
and I'm
say
not the
that,
mom I want to be.
But
then you start beating yourself up about,
I'm not the mom.
I'm not a good mom because I'm so depressed all the time.
They deserve a better mom.
They deserve a better mom. They don't deserve me. And then it's just like, I don't deserve to be here. And it just quickly snowballs into something. Yeah. And but getting help, like I was like, Mommy, my son needs to be potty trained and I can't do it right now. Like, I need you to do it. Just being real, being like, okay, as a mom, you're supposed to know how to do these things, to do that, whatever. But as a mom, you should also be able to admit when you can't. As a human, you should be able to admit when you don't know.
Yes. Yes. So I hear you. I when I had my first son, my mom left to Mexico like 2 weeks after. Oh. And I just felt so like, and now that I think of it, I feel like she almost self-sabotaged this. She fled, you know? And so I just like felt really, my husband was there supportive, but I wanted my mom.
You wanted your mom, of course.
I want my mom to help me know what's
baby. Right. You don't know what you're doing.
And so I felt like when my dad would, when I would tell him, and he was in Mexico with her, so I got no parents, whenever I would mention anything, he would say, and this is so mean, if you can't handle the babies, I will take custody and I will let you see them.
So there's no accountability there or apology.
No, nothing. Not like, hey, my daughter might need some
feelings, some
instant like machismo. Instant like this is what, so then what would I do is not tell you then. And so I also feared, and then that fog makes us think I'm not a good mom right now. That doesn't mean I'm not going to get over this, but you just think this is the kind of mom I am. Oh, forget it.
This is me forever.
When I started to realize, look at how many of my own clients feel this way. We are all feeling this. Like postpartum is something so common and we don't talk about it. So that is when I did see a lot of my inner child as well, because we're scared. We had these babies, but we are children. Like, how do we do this?
When our own inner child isn't even healed and we're supposed to raise a child. That's when it really hit me. I was like, well, for me, it hit me even more because I was like, I hate men and I'm raising a little boy. What are you doing? Like, are you going to fuck him up?
That's like, funny. I was glad I wasn't raising a girl. Really? I have 3 boys and I'm happy I don't have a girl.
And then I was thinking, is this the example you're setting for your daughter? So it was twofold. It was like, is this the example you're setting for your daughter and you hate men and you're raising a boy?
You were shaming yourself either way.
Yeah. And then I was like, damn if you do, damn if you don't, girl. But like, you're here and they love you and they adore you. See that instead of like, you know.
Yeah.
Imposter mom syndrome.
Ooh,
is that a thing?
You just made it a thing. I love the imposter mom syndrome. Yes.
So let's talk about like how someone can get into doing some inner child
Sure.
healing and work at home, or like if someone's like hearing this conversation, they're just like, yes, girl, yes,
Okay.
yes, I need to work on little Ray Ray or whoever.
I love
your
it.
kid is.
Yes.
Your inner kid is, like, how could they do that? And I'm willing to tribute myself as an example to help show folks like what that actually looks like.
Well, and that's the cool thing is like it can look like anything. It's play and it's rest and it's learning things. So there are 4 core values. It's called reparenting your inner child, and it's really being the parent you needed. Okay. So I know we get stuck on like, but my mom wasn't like that, so I don't know how. Okay, so we get to create it. And there is grief and like, man, I got to take care of myself again. But it's in the way you get to like have the do-over you didn't get. And you know what you would do at the do-over because it's your do-over. So what better way, you know? Sometimes we want our parents to throw us this birthday party, like, and then they do it, and it's not really what we want anyway.
Not what we wanted. And you're like, okay, or you say like, this is what I want for Christmas, and they get you everything except what you asked for, and it's just like, I'm going back to bed. Like, we're gonna hit restart on this Christmas morning because that did not go hard.
Right. So inner child healing for me is like, yes, it might be sad, but it's also a chance for me to do it my way, make it as cute as I want. I can smoke weed in this version. It's whatever. So so there's 4 values, and it's like discipline. So discipline is not punishment. Discipline is teaching yourself, like, you know what? Why am I not cleaning out my bong? What's going up with me? You know what? I'm going to wake up half an hour before my son. That's giving yourself love and teaching yourself. Yes.
Discipline, a little discipline.
Right? It's not punishment. It's just, hey, little sin, like your mom didn't teach you how to keep your room clean. That's me for real. Like, so now you got to work on it because you live with someone and they don't want, instead of being like, Cynthia, you're just like, what's wrong with you, right? So discipline, how are we talking to ourselves? How are we teaching that little kid? Second one is emotional regulation. Okay. Rage. I was raging. I had postpartum. I really didn't like the way I would just yell. One day I remember my son was like going to go down the hallway and he was just being playful, and my eyes like purposely got so mean to him, and I saw his eyes get fearful, and then I felt like shit. Then I can't sleep.
Breaking his little spirit.
And you know it. And that's when I saw his inner child, like him as a child, and my little inner child thinking I got to be like, that's how I need to be to my little kid thinking that's how parents have to be.
A bully.
Yes. So learning to how to regulate your emotions, but that looks like, don't go to the party if you know it's going to be drama. Tell the person that you're not doing it. Tell them I need to be handled with care. That is learning what is going to help you stay in your good vibe. You know,
setting up boundaries, little boundaries and limits, and saying like, okay, like if we're going to go out, then like you need to be on time going forward. Or if we go out and like the check comes, I don't need to sit here and like wonder, you know, like I need to know like if we need to talk about it beforehand, like setting those boundaries in place so that this, whatever got you angry, doesn't happen again.
Right. You're being clear. And like
about your
said language.
And your boundaries. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then if people disappoint you after you told them, now it's time to evaluate. Now it's time to maybe like say, okay, this person is not respecting me and like but like, how can people know? And most people don't know about boundaries and these things until they cross them.
This is why I feel like inner child work helps you find them out. Because then you start to get aware with, why is this bothering me that I told them? Like, why does it bother me? Why are some people okay with being late and some people it bothers them? Both. What is it about both of those? So then in this work, you start to be like, I already know what it feels like when I honor myself. Now you're not honoring me. I'm going to keep honoring myself. So we start to put ourselves up to these challenges based on our values. We're now living in our values. And I think that's what's different. We now have like, okay, I'm focusing on this. One is self-care. As moms, if you're not eating and now you're hangry, no wonder you just yelled at your kids.
Yes.
So how are you honoring yourself? That doesn't mean like, oh, I have to get my manicure, but like you didn't have a date in 3 years. We couldn't for 2 years, but now 3 years, how are we going to be like, Mom, come in? That's self-care, setting up for your emotional regulation, right? Then the last one is, why do we have so much trouble with this one? Joy. Why do I have people in therapy, like, I don't know how to have joy. Or I noticed I was ruining joy. Let me know if I would take my kids out. I got a great idea. We're going to go to the museum. We had a great day, Shonitria. But by the end of the day, it's almost like too much fun. So I got to yell. I got to ruin their joy. And I felt like something from my parents' childhood, they would always have to ruin my day. And I found myself ruining joy. So really the last virtue and really how to get started is just be in joy. Ride your bike. What did you like to do as a kid? I want to ask you.
Oh yeah, this is great. I'm glad you said that because that's how I started my healing. I thought to myself, because my therapist said the same thing. She was like, what did you like to do that brought you joy when you were a kid? And I was like, oh, I used to do this and I used to do that. She was like, okay, start doing those things.
Tell me what those things, I want to picture
you. And so for me, she was like, hey, what did you like to do as a kid? And I was like, I like to journal. I used to listen to music in my room. Like, watch a good movie or something, read a book, write. And so she was like, just do those things. And I haven't done it yet, but I actually might. She was like, if you feel like the people in your home are stopping you from having those moments, then set up a boundary or a time block and say, like, during this time, I'm doing this thing. Like, and that could be whatever you want it to be, reading, listening to music. And I was like, oh, it's a great idea. Maybe I get a do not disturb sign, put it on the door. And when I flip the sign, my family knows do not disturb because I'm having my me time, right? I'm reconnecting with my inner child. And so I haven't bought the sign, but I think I'm going to go like buy it after we do this because I just remembered like talking to you about it. But like, it's a good idea. It's a good start. And so for me, I've been journaling more and I've been listening to music a lot more. Like I used to listen to music at night when I was a kid and in college and even in our relationship, but having the kids in, they slept in our room. So then it's kind of like,
girl,
okay.
You weren't getting no sleep.
Well, I was getting sleep because they were sleeping in the room.
Okay, there you go. Okay,
we were co-sleeping, but like I wasn't sleeping the way I wanted to sleep. Right. So I like to listen to music, but it's like I can't be listening to like, a little brandy or whatever and like my baby's trying to sleep because that might wake them up. Well, it is going to wake them up. That dum 808s they're up. But like when we got them out of the room, and that happened like years ago, and I still wasn't like returning back to like my sleep pattern. We were still kind of on their thing. And so it's just like slowly like returning my bedroom back to my bedroom so I can look and be like, okay, this is my room. Slowly like doing my nighttime routines how I used to. And I even told him, I was like, babe, remember when we used to listen to music at night, but like while we were going to bed, and like, why did we stop? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, I think it's the kids. He was like, yeah. So like doing that again, and then realizing like that helped us kind of zone into our own little world at night and not like you're not distracted by the sounds of the outside world, but also like if like, I don't know, there's a cat outside or something, like I don't have to hear any of that. Like we're in our zone. And the kids actually, funny enough, listen to music at night too. So everybody's listening to music at night in our house. But yeah, just those little things and reconnecting with that like brought me so much joy and peace, and like realizing that I like going to parks. I like going to the beach. Like even if it's by myself, my family can come if they want, but like that's my thing. Yeah. And so I started doing that actively. And I feel like oftentimes when we get into relationships, not even having kids, but just getting into a relationship, you find yourself like dropping off by the wayside one by one the things that made you and that made them love you in the first place. Ooh. And so then it's like you're doing all these things, or you're stopping doing all these things that you love, and you're doing things that y'all love together because now you have shared hobbies, you have shared interests, you have shared friends, that you're dropping off all of your things and they're looking at you like you're not you anymore. And you're like, I don't feel like me. And it's because you stopped literally doing everything that made you. And so I had to realize like I have to do those things again, right? To be me, not even little girl things, but like but like as a woman, I enjoy doing these things. And like if you don't like doing that, that's fine. This is a time where you get to do your thing and I get to do my thing. So you like football on Sunday, I don't. On Sunday, I'm gonna go to the park and smoke weed because that's what I like to do.
And what are you teaching your daughter, right? She's learning. Women don't have to be like, I'm just this woman that cares for these kids and this man. Like, however she wants to be in her family, you're giving your daughter language. Also, when you said the sign, that sounds very inner child. Yeah. I would go with that because what did we do when we were kids and you got your room? Even if you shared a room, you drew and that's what you thought of. I would think about making a sign and showing your daughter, hey, if you need privacy, now you're giving your daughter a safety of like, hey, if you need privacy, you can flip a sign. I didn't have, like I had a sign, but my dad's like, this is my house.
This is my door. I will take it off the hinges. Don't think about closing it. Better not lock it.
So that's why you embodying it is so important, because your daughter can tap into how does somebody be the mother of a home. happiness, joy. You don't just give that up. So you embodying it is generational healing. That's my big thing right now.
Ooh, I love that.
Inner child healing is, I actually have 6-week workshops now. I incorporate social justice with inner child healing. Because can I say a little bit more about postpartum?
Yeah.
I have had so many just like spiritual downloads about postpartum in this work I'm doing now. You know how we feel this postpartum? I don't know about you, but I felt this like longing, this pull. Sometimes I would imagine myself like running down the hallway of our apartments, just running. I live two blocks from the beach in Long Beach. Why do I have this? I'm in a home that my husband loves me. I'm safe. They don't talk to me like my dad talked to my mom. I make good money. I have a job with insurance. Like, what's up? You wanted this baby. Well, I'm going to tell you something. I've been doing this research with epigenetics. It's a lot of what I do my workshops on. So our genes have a marker. So historically, if you have your genes, they say, okay, your skin color is going to be like this. Your hair is going to be like this. You're going to be this tall. You know, you got your mom's laugh. But they noticed that something called epigenetics, and that's a marker in your genes. So we carry a marker 7 generations back. So we got to think now, this is what I thought of. So we're carrying whatever trauma 7 generations have of your lineage, but you're doing 14, right? Because you got your mom's side and your dad's side. Now, when we really put that into a picture, anything that they did a lot of, that marker, it's like flipping on the switch. So if they had to run away from people, if they had to know how to till the land, those switches are flipped because it's conditioned. It's evolutionary to protect you. So like, I feel like Latinos, we have this switch for feeling like you're going to be abandoned because of immigration, because of separation. So now I'm realizing in postpartum, a lot of it, we were like, what's up? We are now feeling the pain of our lineages, your grandmother and your mother, because let's think about it. Those women didn't get to finish that pain. They had to keep going. So now we are the ones that were like, this strong pull. I don't think all of it's yours. It's not all mine. You're now carrying these women. So what I got in this, like, what am I supposed to do with this? It's so profound. You sit in compassion and meditation. And the cannabis helped me get that. Like, you're carrying this for us. And if you don't acknowledge, okay, how did my grandma give birth? Oh, she gave birth on the floor in a hut, you know, bleeding like this. And nobody was with her. No wonder I feel so alone, but it's not mine. So sometimes now I'm realizing, and I really want to speak to my community specifically about separation. Well, even like all people of color, there's some separation between their continent, their country, right?
Well, part of making it in America is the assimilation of it all, right?
Okay.
You can't make it in America unless you actually buy into the American culture, which is highly individual. And most Black and brown people, we don't come from individualistic cultures. Our cultures are about community. They're about tribe. They're about being one and together. And like, we come here to make it. But like, in order to do that, you kind of got to like drop off again, like what you do when you get in a relationship, drop off little bits of your culture to get that job, to get into that room and be the only one. Right. But it's like, that's part of it. But it's like, should it be part of it? And I think like we're the first generation to like really push back and say like, no, I'm not accepting that.
Yeah.
You know,
I think we're wearing our mother's shame of like, don't tell people you feel like that. And for us, like, now, exactly. We used to be like this tribe, this community, this comadreship. And now we're like, I had to say it. I had to ask for help. When before it would have been like, hey, I'm feeling this. You'd be like, oh, try this tea, take this plant, rub it here, you know, go to the water and say these rituals. That's also, I started doing an inner child ritual. This is something that people could do. I'd like to ask you let's start thinking about your inner child ritual. I mean, altar, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So in an inner child altar, you would pick a drawer. So I would say to you, where can you see a spot in your mind right now in your house that you would find a good spot to honor yourself, Shonitria? Like in your bedroom? Okay, what do you see for yourself? Is it like above a dresser? Like maybe a nice little shelf you could put up?
Yeah, maybe it's a shelf I can put on the wall.
Okay. So in your inner child altar, this could be a place, let's say you're really like, you've been up 3 times all night. You got to get to work. You're tired. But in the morning, it's a place where you can go have your coffee before the kids are up. You can light your little candles and you're really going to honor yourself. So you can pick toys. What kind of toys did you like, or what shows did you like as a kid? When you could think of happy like shows, what do you think of? Cartoons?
I don't know. I'm like, what did I watch?
How about Disney? Do you like Disney?
You know what? I love Little Mermaid. Was
Okay.
obsessed with Little Mermaid as a kid. Was like super obsessed with like Sonic
Sonic,
which my daughter actually loves Sonic now.
Okay.
So funny because cartoons never died. They like literally Little Mermaid's coming back. And it's just like you can get to be a kid all over again through your kids because Toy Story never dies. Like I was watching that as a kid, and why is my kid watching it as a kid, right? But like, yeah, I love Toy Story. So big Disney fan. Love, Ariel the Mermaid. Loved Sonic. Loved what else did I love? I love Macaulay Culkin. Thought he was so hot.
Okay. Home Alone.
Yes, Home Alone. Loved all the movies.
Okay. What
love
were you
Problem
eating?
Child also.
Oh, Remember Problem Child?
Yes, love Problem Child. I actually just loved all the movies of like bad behaving children.
So Mischief. Okay, and what were
Little Rascals. Love that movie.
When you were out playing and they were like, oh my gosh, there's Shonitria. You can never get her to stop. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? Are you jump roping? Are you playing? Are you playing with a group of girls? Are you...
I used to love playing basketball as a kid as well. So I grew up in the country.
Okay.
So I was always outside. So everything was outside for me. Like I didn't really I play video games and stuff, but I was mostly outside.
What did outside look like? Was it lake? Was it forest?
Like grass. Like I was in the countryside. It was just
were you adventurous?
As far as you can see. Sure, yeah.
So the mischievous shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say just doing that and like with our altar, I really love it as a place. Like, so maybe you're on a walk and you're like, this flower calls to me. Mm-hmm. I don't know why, but and you really bring this altar just for you. The little nostalgic things. I don't know. One day, you see a Halloween that you used to like a Halloween sticker and you put it in your altar, but really finding a place where you can honor those little innocent moments, maybe even your inner teen, maybe neon colors, whatever. But when we can find a space for ourselves, we're really claiming it. We're now taking it from in you to like, this is my altar. And like, honey, you get your own altar, but this is mine.
I love that. And so like taking little things from childhood, putting it on a shelf or, whatever an altar might be for you. And then honoring that, like that in that way, you're kind of saying like, hey, kid version of me, like I see you and I love you and I respect you and I'm honoring you. I love that. Like that's such a great idea because then it's like we all probably are carrying things around from our childhood, like literal physical objects. Maybe it's that blanket that like your mom was like, all right, fine, you can take it with you. Maybe it's that little plushie, whatever it was. And I think we all have those things, a little action figure that you're like, okay, I've had this since I was 5 years old. And why? Put it on the shelf and honor it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. And your inner child altar?
Yeah. I just created it like 6 months ago and I was like, I keep coming back to it. And it's like, it's beautiful now, but I kept buying my husband, my sons love Hot Wheels. So when we go to the grocery store, they get a Hot Wheels, right?
Oh my gosh. And they're like $1.
It's $1.
So I'm like, damn it.
You
fine.
Right? You're like, okay, it's $1. You're going to get it. But sometimes, they already have all of them,
They have all of them.
Right. So I would get my husband like these vintage Hot Wheels sometimes, like the 60s. But he was like, babe, why do you keep getting me these Hot Wheels? I'm like, look, it's Pink Floyd. You're a musician. Yeah, he's like, but I don't. Like Transformers, but I would get him all these. He's like, but I don't care about those. Maybe you. And I said, no, they're for you. And he said, babe, maybe your inner child loves Hot Wheels. And I was like,
did you?
So he revealed
were you never allowed to play with it?
There you go. Because of my gender, right? Because my dad would be. So it's in these now, we're having a conversation, me and my husband. He unlocks something for me. So your shelf is also like, I love Toy Story, but I can't play with that. That's a kid's toy. Mm-hmm. Why not? Put it on your shelf. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean we don't get to like at least say, hey, those are the things I like. So it's like honoring you and having a space to always come back to you. So I would say also that. And when I would get high, I would I still do like to visualize my inner child and ask her what she needs. Mm-hmm. So I picture her in a spot. Would you like to try something now?
Or? Yeah, sure.
I'll just do something. And we don't have to we're really just gonna say maybe a goodbye for this. How about that?
Yes, let's do it.
So if you close your eyes, or if you want to close your eyes, I like to put my hands either on my heart center, or right now I feel called to put on my throat. You can put it wherever you want, but just touching yourself. Okay. So take a big deep breath in and out, and just keep breathing. And I want you to imagine. Right now, if we were to imagine our inner child sitting on this couch right here, And we're telling her, I'm going to build an inner child altar for you. And I really want you to picture yourself at an age where you remember feeling really happy. So if it's like, oh, the last time I remember feeling really happy, it was 5 or whatever that age is, bring up that age. And I want you to picture her as if she was sitting here. And we're going to picture what her hair looks like, what her facial expressions look like, how she's sitting. And she's happy to hear about this altar. So we're going to picture her and we're letting her know, we're going to build an altar for you. Let me know the kind of things that you love. So I want us to just really allow for a picture of what kinds of things. So internally, we can ask our inner child ourselves, what would you like to see on there? So I want you to go ahead and ask yourself that in private. You don't have to tell us. And if you see any colors come up, or any pictures, any flowers, any kind of visuals. And then if you could just set an intention for yourself right now, how do you want to feel when you are at this altar? When you walk to it in the morning and you're feeling depleted as a mom and you just need some kind of like giddy up, some joy. What do you want to feel like when you're at this altar? So just go ahead and picture that now.
I want to feel like I made it.
Yes,
I'm grown up now and I'm doing it. Shit, bitch.
And would it be colorful? What would that altar look like?
It's going to be a lot of blue, like blue everywhere.
Blue, different colors, blues,
Sure,
water blue?
Sure, all sorts of shades blue.
How about natural stuff? What kind of natural things from your walks are we going to get? You like to go to the park. What kind of things are you going to bring home?
You know what? I'm not going to lie to you. I don't like to pick up stuff.
Okay. So you're not going to, that's okay. That's you. Great.
And also like, I respect people's lawns and their, all the work they put into putting those flowers there. I respect it.
Little Shonitria, that's important to her. That's important to her. That's beautiful. So if you want to just envision her, and really what I like to do is wait till I can feel the compassion for that child. And I just wait till I can beam it either from my tummy or my heart to the child. So go ahead and wait till you can feel that love wrapping around her. And just let her know in any way you need to let her know. You know how to do it. That you're gonna make this happen for her. You're gonna have some symbolic place to honor her. And when you're done, just come back to the room. You could say goodbye to that moment in any way. And I just come back to the room.
Yes, I love that. That was so dope. I could just see her.
Were you able?
She's lit. She's excited to have an altar because I'm like, this is a great idea. Happy to do this for you, little Shonitria. I think it's like, but I feel like all of like, just because you're an adult doesn't mean you have to like stop, like let go of childlike things and things that make you happy. Because if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. And like happiness is something that you were right. Like joy is one of those 4 pillars that like we absolutely need. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And your smile has so much joy.
Thank you.
And it's like, I'm so glad you're here with us and you're doing this podcast. And all I saw was like, I know that you have this difficult journey and it makes sense. You have so much to face and look what you're offering us as moms now.
I appreciate you.
Your struggle is not in vain. So glad you're here. I know it was difficult and now you're giving to us, and how many moms you might be saving.
Thank you so much. And thank you. I mean, you've been through a lot as well, and your postpartum and your postpartum depression journey brought you here. Like all roads led to you being here in this moment to share this message with
I never thought I'd be talking about my cannabis use, right? And you gave a platform.
And it's one of the most important parts, whether you believe it or not, because that's what sets you apart. It makes you uniquely you. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And little Shonitria is very happy. I hope little Cynthia is happy.
I feel like that's why we are talking, so that they can have the mic and be like, we got them to do it. And they're here and we are still honoring them. Thank you, Shonitria.
Thank you so much. How can people reach you if they want to reach you, and what's coming up next?
Oh, thank you. So you can find me on Instagram at rooted_in_reflection. Rooted in Reflection on Instagram. I'm doing a sound sound bath with the inner child guided visualization. It's all
Okay.
positive. It's all beautiful with the beautiful healing sound bath. That's next week in Long Beach. But I have a 6-week workshop. I really want to let people know, if you want to do this work in community, it's for marginalized communities. A lot of us are professional people who, we got kids. We feel like we're successful, but internally we want to grow our intuition and our self-love. So that starts in November. That's my heart work. And also I'm doing inner child rituals and altar building in Long Beach in November. So check me out. My website is rootedinreflection.org, and on Instagram. And with this podcast, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining. You guys definitely tap into those resources. It's super important, and part of healing is healing your inner child and being in touch and honoring that inner child. And like, when you start having those conversations with that little kid version of you, see how far you'll go. Like, you'll be amazed at like what starts to happen in the rooms you'll be in and the people who you'll attract once you start honoring the little kid version of you. So thank you so much.
Thank
and
you.
You guys definitely obviously do all the things: subscribe, rate, review Blunt Blowin Mama podcast on all the places, share it with your friends, follow Blunt Blowin Mama on Instagram. And moms who smoke weed are not bad moms,
No.
right? Like bluntblowinmama.com for all the things, access workshops on pregnancy and breastfeeding and how to talk to your kids about cannabis and all those very important topics. Join the Mama Stash membership. And yeah,
That's beautiful.
that's
Thank
it.
you.
That's
Thank
all the
you.
things. All right, bye.
Thank you for this community.